Chosen one, you didn't stumble here by accident. This moment was designed with you in mind. There's a reason your heart pulled you to read these words, a reason your spirit feels alert right now. You are not just anyone. You are marked for something greater. This is your divine cue, your confirmation, your personal signal from above. You are being positioned for something extraordinary. Everything you've walked through, every silent battle, every tear, every moment of doubt, it's all been leading to this. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. And what's coming next is going to stretch you, elevate you, and awaken parts of you that have been dormant for far too long. Chosen one, get ready. Your name is on something massive, and heaven is aligning every piece just for you. This is not hype. This is holy momentum. Let's step into it fully, boldly, without hesitation. You were born for this. Looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. A stillness is approaching, one that doesn't shout, but settles like a heavy mist over the soul. It won't come with thunder or drama, but with a strange hush that seeps into the very core. In that silence, clarity will blur and the familiar will fade, not as an attack or misfortune, but as part of a higher orchestration. This pause isn't designed to confuse, but to separate what is fading from what is forming. It's not an adversary you face, it's the sculptor behind the veil. When all movement ceases, it is not to stop your progress, but to protect the parts of you that are not yet ready to emerge. A retreat, not out of fear, but for refinement, like being moved to the edge of a vast, quiet valley while a storm reshapes the path ahead. This intermission is sacred. The outer world may continue to churn, but you are temporarily removed from its pull so the deeper work can begin. The adjustment isn't for show, it's internal, hidden, sacred. During this pause, the architecture of your life is quietly being altered. What once resisted is released. What once seemed locked away begins to open. Answers begin flowing without demand. Encounters feel divinely timed. The things you've long reached for begin reaching for you. What seemed like divine distance becomes the place of your recalibration. It's not exile, it's elevation masked in stillness. To flow with this shift, posture must change. Let go of control. Detach from distraction. Withdraw from the rush. This quiet does not demand performance. It asks for presence. Stand still and let the realignment take root. In this rare stillness, doors you didn't knock on will open. Roads you didn't map will emerge. It's not about chasing, it's about becoming. And the shift begins the moment you stop resisting the quiet. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. This divine pause is not a shutdown in the way the world knows it. It's a folding inward, a sacred cocoon moment where your layers are reformed without spectacle. What unfolds after isn't accidental. It's the result of the invisible labor taking place in this hush. No alarms, no signs, just a silent, holy reconfiguration that makes way for everything that's next. Something ancient stirs beneath the surface. An inner shift as silent as snowfall on still water. What approaches is not chaos, but an invisible threshold that signals the departure from the ordinary. As the veil draws near, sensations begin to fade. Not through force, but through divine stillness that softly disconnects the senses from the clamor they once clung to. This is not abandonment, it is a quiet escort into deeper dimensions. The hush is intentional. It doesn't arrive to leave you stranded, but to redirect your awareness inward where clarity waits. All the usual hums of daily life, the flicker of screens, the static of conversations, the routine friction begin to dissolve. In their absence, something greater begins to whisper. The absence isn't emptiness, it's sacred space. A retreat crafted not by chance, but by divine design. Stillness replaces sight. Quiet replaces sound. For a moment, there's nothing left to grasp except the breath inside your chest. Though unfamiliar, this moment is not dangerous. It is the shielding calm before the unraveling of old burdens. Rather than fear the void, embrace its purpose. The lack of stimuli isn't to disorient, it's to recalibrate. This emptiness holds intention. As time approaches its silent crossing, a soft disconnect begins to unfold. Not sudden, but gentle, like mist obscuring the landscape before dawn. What once seemed certain fades into mystery, but it is within that mystery that change is born. The fading is not erasure, it is preparation. The senses soften, so that what is unseen can come forward. Imagine being drawn into a chamber where every surface absorbs noise, where light can't intrude. The familiar world is muted, not as punishment, but as preservation. The inner faculties are being sharpened, not to see or hear more of the world, but to perceive beyond it. What once cluttered your insight is lifted so that unseen wisdom can anchor itself. Feel God's love stirring within you. Don't let it stop there. Hit the super thank you button and sow a seed of $20 or more. That simple act can ignite hope, heal hearts, and carry His love further than you imagine. You were made to shine His light. This is your moment. Be the miracle someone's been praying for. Let heaven move through you. And though the lack of stimuli might trigger unease, the journey through this invisible corridor leads to renewal. Not a breakdown, but a rebuilding. It is not the end of sensation, but the cleansing of perception. After the darkness, not only will you see again, you will see differently. Not only will you hear again, you will hear the truth hidden beneath noise. What happens inside is beyond measurement. A pause not just of thought, but of energy. Deep within, even the rhythms of the body briefly recede, allowing a grander pulse to retune every fiber. It is not the slowing of life, but the refinement of its force. This interruption isn't a flaw in the design. It is the design working perfectly. The restoration is cellular, electric, atomic. A silent flood of renewal moves beneath the surface, stripping away what no longer serves. You aren't losing energy. You're being infused with new patterns. Pain exits. Confusion dissolves. Dormant strength awakens. The body, mind, and essence align not through effort, but through surrender to the stillness. What emerges is not a version of the old, but something altogether new. Reality begins to dissolve at the threshold of the unseen, pulling awareness into a state that feels beyond sleep, yet deeper than waking. In this suspended space, perception sharpens with a clarity not found in daylight. It's not a dream, nor a vision, but an encounter with something profoundly sacred. Time stretches. Logic softens. The atmosphere becomes alive with meaning that surpasses words. What opens here is not imagined. It's a realm where the spirit walks fully alert within a sanctuary of mystery. This state acts as a corridor through which the soul drifts unbound, not confined by ordinary dreaming, but guided through a luminous terrain where thought responds to intent and messages are etched in experience. The veil between dimensions thins. Sound becomes feeling, and symbols become guidance. This is no fleeting escape. It is an immersion into something orchestrated by hands not of this world. The shift leaves an imprint, a realignment, a change that lingers long after the return. Emergence from this immersion feels like rising from beneath deep waters, revived, restructured, lit from within. There is no returning unchanged. What once clung to the heart, doubts, guilt, barriers, loses its grip. This intervention isn't by chance. It is a deliberate act of love, meant to unbind what has long kept the soul confined. Every internal fracture becomes a doorway to new wholeness. To resist such a passage is to tread upstream in a river made of light. Every hesitation, every attempt to hold onto the known, only delays what is inevitable renewal. The deeper this experience is allowed to unfold, the more complete the healing becomes. There is no need to understand the process, only to surrender to it with the trust that all things sacred require. Tension and uncertainty during the shift are not signs of failure, but signals that the internal walls are cracking. The soul stretches. The vessel adjusts. It's not chaos, it's calibration. There is no reason to fear the trembling. The very trembling is evidence of change reaching into marrow and memory. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. As the journey continues, the physical form becomes part of the transformation. Energy cascades through every fiber, touching sinew and nerve with unseen precision. This is not recovery from fatigue. It is the reconstruction of the very framework of the self. Layers of past injury, both noticed and hidden, begin to vanish like ash swept by wind. The body, long carrying burdens in silence, becomes an altar for renewal. Not a single cell escapes attention. Every fragment is met with tender force, recalibrated in silence. The structure you walk in, once dulled by time and pain, begins to glow from the inside out. Strength returns. Balance is restored. There is no area left untouched. Alongside this comes the lifting of the unseen anchors. Old weight drops. Hidden sorrow is drawn out without struggle. The spirit, so often silent beneath the surface of daily life, lifts its voice. The past no longer whispers from shadowed corners. The mind, once crowded by echoes, becomes wide and still. It is a clearing, a sanctified release. And when all of this completes, awareness flickers back into your world with more than rest. It returns with purpose. Perception expands. Thoughts stretch into new directions. Hope flickers on paths not yet walked. The weight is gone. The light is real. And in the calm aftermath, it becomes clear. What has occurred was not escape. It was transformation, perfectly timed and divinely tailored. Stillness arrives not as a threat, but as an invitation, one that hushes every fiber of movement so something greater can begin. What may seem like paralysis is, in truth, an intentional quieting, a divine pause that silences the machinery of the body so its deepest systems can be reworked. It isn't something to fear. It's the silence before a masterpiece begins. In this immobility, healing flows undisturbed, untouched by fear or distraction. Consciousness remains present, alert, and enveloped in an unseen presence that carries only calm. Like dimming every switch in a control room before a delicate recalibration, the body surrenders its usual rhythms to make way for something profound. Systems slow, reactions fade, and the surface world retreats. In that void, renewal begins. The sensation of stillness may press in, but within it, a quiet order is at work. And though alarm may rise, it's only habit clinging to old patterns. What's happening is not paralysis. It's restoration masked as stillness. Feel God's love stirring within you. Don't let it stop there. Hit the super thank you button and sow a seed of $20 or more. That simple act can ignite hope, heal hearts, and carry His love further than you imagine. You were made to shine His light. This is your moment. Be the miracle someone's been praying for. Let heaven move through you. To receive this fully, the surrounding space must mirror the calm within. Every flicker, every beep, every low hum of distraction must be set aside. It's time to curate an environment that doesn't just allow rest, but reveres it. This space becomes a cradle, a threshold, a chamber untouched by the outer world. Shadows soften, noise fades, and the air carries intention. Everything around you should affirm, this is sacred ground. Prepare this space not with extravagance, but with reverence. Let silence take the lead. Let softness reign. Let everything in the room serve the purpose of stillness, of listening, of opening. Disconnect the pulse of machines. Let light fall gently. Let scent and warmth remind the body that it is safe to let go. This space is not just a place to sleep. It is a vessel of transformation. Before entering this sacred inner chamber, clear the field. Those nearest must understand. This is not a night like any other. This is not simple rest. It is not solitude for comfort. It is solitude for transcendence. Share with them not the details, but the importance. This is a chapter that demands silence, not absence of love, but protection of it. Their respect forms the outer boundary that keeps this internal work untouched by interruption. Let them know their distance tonight is a gesture of deep support. That silence is their offering. Their understanding is the invisible shield around your sacred passage. And with that protection in place, your journey inward can begin without resistance, without pull from the world outside. What unfolds on this night is not time passing, but transformation brewing beneath the surface. As if curled within a seed's final sleep before it cracks open, the spirit enters a quiet forge of rebirth. Everything that weighed heavy begins to melt. The noise of the past retreats. Old echoes fade. It is incubation, but not of flesh, of essence, of destiny being rewritten. Held in something far older and wiser than the mind can name, the soul enters a quiet furnace. It doesn't burn, it reshapes. The body might lie still, but inside, movement is happening on levels unseen. The self is being reimagined, not in fragments, but in wholeness. Every delay, every injury, every crack in identity finds warmth and reformation here. And then comes the dawn, not just of the sky, but of the inner horizon. Waking feels like returning from a distant continent you didn't know you traveled. But something's different, lighter, sharper. There's a knowing now, not through words, but through resonance, as if something ancient looked at you and said, "Now you remember." This isn't metaphor. It's experience. Not a mirage, but a reflection so clear it startles. A mirror not made of glass, but of truth, showing not who you've been told you are, but who you've always been. Not a flaw in sight, only radiance, etched with purpose. And this encounter doesn't fade. It stamps itself onto the soul, like sunlight soaked into stone. In that brief glance, the illusion of separation falls away. You are known. You are seen. You are more than roles, wounds, or fears. That moment is not an ending, it is a beginning. The path forward is lit from within, and you carry it wherever you go. What was broken finds its shape. What was hidden steps forward. The shift isn't temporary. It becomes the axis of a new life. A shift unfolds when the surface world fades, when sound no longer comes through the ears, but through something older and deeper. The message isn't spoken. It resonates. A presence speaks not in volume but in vibration, stirring the unseen layers of your being. This encounter cuts through internal static, not to overwhelm but to anchor. The words aren't heard, they are known. Each one tailored, precise, and aimed at the hollow places in need of peace. The sensation is more than a message, it's an encounter with meaning, woven into the stillness. Insight arrives without effort. Answers rise like sunlight through clouded glass. The voice is not external, but closer than breath. It doesn't shout. It doesn't plead. It simply reveals. This clarity doesn't fade with time. It sets the rhythm for your next steps. Doubts loosen. Certainty awakens. You walk forward with steadiness, not because you know every step, but because you felt the truth of direction inside your bones. This moment is not routine. It is a crossroad carved by divine design. It's more than change. It is reconstruction. Everything misaligned is gently returned to order. Missing it would be like ignoring a compass reset in the middle of a journey. Through this, you don't just recover, you evolve. The past loosens, clarity sharpens, the veil thins, and a new version of you rises, untethered from what once drained your energy. What unfolds isn't borrowed or temporary, it is foundational. A full spectrum renewal, one that breaks through fog, dissolves patterns built in fear, and reignites the deepest essence within. The atmosphere is ripe for letting go. The invitation is already extended. The shift depends only on your permission. Let go of outcomes. Detach from needing to know. The work is already happening, quietly, surely, eternally. When morning reaches you, it doesn't just announce a new day. It reveals a new version of your being. Light carries differently. Thoughts land softer. Breath feels expansive. What unfolds next flows from alignment rather than struggle. The inner rewiring is complete. This isn't merely survival, it's emergence. What's changed is not just circumstance. It's the internal compass now attuned to something greater. Rest on this night is unlike sleep. It isn't passive. It's sacred stillness infused with intentional repair. It's not about absence. It's about divine saturation. This restoration seeps beyond muscles and bones. It touches memory, emotion, and energetic threads worn thin by life's relentless pace. You aren't just resting. You're being revived in ways nothing external could offer. No earthly substitute compares. Not noise-canceling soundscapes. Not hours of stillness in retreat. This is different. The very blueprint of your being is being redrawn by hands you cannot see. What fades away in this night isn't forgotten, it's healed. The parts that couldn't be reached by words or medicine find solace here. Nothing is rushed. Everything flows. There is no action required, only trust. Let the need to control melt. What happens here doesn't rely on effort. It unfolds on grace alone. This reset is not a break. It's a recalibration that marks the end of the old way. When the light returns, what was fatigue becomes clarity. What was heaviness becomes light. What was numb becomes fully awake. This isn't only rest. It's a return to the soul's original cadence, before it was slowed by fear and fractured by pressure. In this silence, the core of your being is invited to speak again. Its voice has been waiting. Its message is renewal. Its purpose is your wholeness. The night is a doorway, and you pass through it. Not just healed, but reborn. This isn't just spiritual. It touches the cellular level. Even what was hidden deep in memory or anchored in old habits begins to lift. Emotional burdens dissolve not because they're erased, but because they're finally understood. Regret loses its grip. The questions that echoed without answers begin to quiet, not silenced, but satisfied. Your inner fire, once dimmed by disappointment or distraction, is kindled again, not in a flash, but with lasting heat. It doesn't flicker, it steadies. Your perspective expands. Your center holds. The world outside remains unchanged, but how you meet it is transformed. You rise into clarity not by accident, but because this night made room for your true self to return. There are moments when long-forgotten fire reignites from within, when something sacred stirs, awakening what once seemed faded. A surge moves quietly through the soul, not loud or chaotic, but steady and full of promise. It's the return of inner radiance, the reappearance of joy where emptiness once echoed. That unshakable sense of purpose, once dimmed, is rekindled. What was muted comes alive again. This isn't simply emotional, it's elemental. A deep sense of peace unfolds, not because circumstances changed, but because alignment returned. What rises isn't just a shift in mood. It's a full-spectrum return to life. The static dissolves. Restlessness quiets. Where there was once noise, now there is understanding. This clarity of heart replaces tired conclusions with living hope. The heavy fog lifts, revealing a horizon wide with possibility. This is not wishful thinking. It's a reawakening of identity. That surge of love, that flash of inspiration, that gentle push toward becoming. It's all real, and it's all meant for you. In this sacred unfolding, a comprehensive renewal begins. Every inch of your being becomes part of the healing. Not a momentary lift, but a profound rebuilding from the ground up. Invisible weariness, aches too subtle to explain, burdens too deeply rooted to name, all are seen, all are addressed. The work moves beneath the surface, recalibrating the very structure that holds you together. The system doesn't just recover, it reconfigures. Each internal network begins to hum with balance. Vitality pulses where fatigue once lingered. Tension gives way to harmony. And though the outward signs may be subtle at first, the change has begun. Days afterward, you'll move differently, breathe differently, respond with ease. The shift ripples through time, creating space for what was always meant to thrive in you. What's happening inside isn't random. It's a sacred reorganization. Every system resets with intention. Every dormant part is reawakened. What was disconnected becomes integrated. What was out of rhythm finds its tempo. This isn't about avoiding pain. It's about reclaiming strength. The shift doesn't demand effort. It only requires surrender. And with surrender comes clarity. So crisp it slices through the mental fog that's blurred your focus for far too long. Thoughts once tangled begin to line up with precision. You see without guessing. Choose without hesitating. Not because the world changed, but because your mind is no longer filtered through confusion. Instead, it flows with grounded purpose. There's a reservoir within you that was waiting to be tapped. Untouched energy, quiet wisdom, and endurance you didn't know you carried. And now it's rising. Not in a burst, but in a sustainable current that moves you forward. What once felt impossible now seems inevitable. You are no longer reacting. You are moving with intention. You are being led from within. This experience doesn't stop at the surface. It goes deeper. It touches sorrow hidden in the folds of your memory. It reaches the tension lodged in the body. It locates what's long been held in silence and lifts it. You aren't asked to forget. You're invited to release. The weight is not erased. It's dissolved. Each emotion that rises, whether grief or joy, is evidence that the shift is happening. Let it rise. Let it pass through. The release is not weakness, it's sacred movement. And when the sun returns, something fundamental has changed. What once lived beneath layers of burden is now exposed to light. The chains are not broken dramatically, they simply fall away, irrelevant and no longer attached. This is freedom born out of escape, but of truth. What you walk into next is not a return to normalcy. It is a path reformed by revelation. You now carry the imprint of the transformation, not just as a memory, but as your new foundation. There's no need to grasp, strive, or seek approval. You have already become. And in this becoming, you shine without asking. You move without doubt. You begin again, but this time, as your truest self. Something long hidden stirs to life, not through noise or spectacle, but through a quiet and powerful internal surge. On this night, A force awakens that you may have sensed but never fully grasped. An ancient strength that's always been part of your design. It doesn't rise in a flash of emotion or adrenaline, but through a slow, steady ignition that changes the entire rhythm of your being. This isn't just motivation, it's a sacred activation. What once flickered now glows with unwavering heat, illuminating new direction and meaning. Within this emergence, resistance melts. Internal doubts, spiritual inertia, and confusion are quietly stripped away. You don't just feel capable, you feel commissioned. A sacred charge is placed within you, awakening gifts you didn't know how to use or trust before. Suddenly, the steps ahead seem less daunting and more aligned. You walk not because you're certain, but because you're fueled by a trust greater than understanding. This isn't a restart. It's the first time you're truly beginning. As this deep shift takes hold, a veil lifts from your perception. Thoughts that once spiraled into worry now land softly, shaped by clarity and presence. The divine signal cutting through distortion isn't loud, but exact. It recalibrates not just belief, but direction. You see more than what's in front of you. You feel what's ahead and recognize where you're meant to stand. Your spiritual instincts sharpen, no longer buried beneath noise. Your intuition hums with accuracy,